Loops in Java. What are loops? There are times that we want to repeat one or more statements, so we can use loops to avoid repetition. So instead of repeating ourselves and rewriting the same code over and over again, we can use loops to write code once and execute multiple times. Loops are used to avoid repetition of similar statements. Let me give you an example. For example, you want to say hello world 5 times. Now you see it works fine, but we are repeating this 5 times and it is not good. Now in this example, this is just one simple one-line code. In some other situation, you write hundreds line code that are the same. So to avoid that, you can use loops. In Java and also in other programming languages, you have different types of loops. You have for loop, you have for each loop, you have while loop, you have do while loop. Let me give you an example of for loop. You use the keyword for, and then here you give a variable, the loop counter, integer I 0. This is like convention that the variable for counting the loop is like I, j, k, and so on. And we want 5 times, I less than 5, and then we increment the I. For one line statement we don't need braces, but if you have multiple lines of codes, then you need braces as well. Now you see both works fine. As you see inside in this parenthesis for the loop, we have 3 parts. One is the counter variable, another one is Boolean expression for evaluating the counter variable, and then the other part is we increase or decrease. You can loop forward or backward. Now we are looping forward from 0 to 5. You can start from 5 and loop to 0, and also you can start from 1 and then say less than or equal to 5. They're all the same. Or you can say here 5. We also have to bring change here when I is greater than or equal to 1, and also change this one. Now we are looping backwards. Let me show you the I. So I, concatenating the I. Now 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If we say this is 1, less than or equal to 5. Change this to plus plus to increment. Now say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the production environment, you almost never use a static value for your loop. I call this counter linked. So how many times this loop should loop, or how many times the code inside of this loop should get executed. So this is like kind of the linked, but you get this value from somewhere else. For example, you have a list, loop through a list, loop through an array of data. For example, you loop through the data that you get from the database. Let's say you have 50 rows and you loop over every row to get the data and process the data for every row, to do stuff with the data in each row and then return. We can also loop over let's say string, and then print each character. String say the name of my channel, Pianos, and then here also Pianos. So here we can say I less than or equal to Pianos dot length, so the length of the string, and here let's say the character is the name of your string, and then char at, so you get a single character from a specified index, and in this case we pass the index as argument here, and this one should start from 0 and go less than the length, otherwise we will get error that it is out of the range. Let us run it. So you get all the characters A, Q, Y, A, N, O, O, S. Let us here create a list, an array, and loop through the array data. Cities, and then here we have to pass some cities. For example, Ghent in Belgium, Delhi in India, Kabul in Afghanistan, New York in United States, and somewhere in China. This is just an example. So the same way we change in this cities dot length, and then instead of that we say cities. Now this has index, cities I, change this, the city name is Ken, Delhi, Kabul, New York, and somewhere. Some best practice about for loop. Now this expression gets evaluated in every iteration. It is not good. For example, if you have to iterate thousands times, then it will overload the memory, and then it will impact the performance of your application. So what we should do is here create integer, call it for example length, and then cat in this here list and total. So now it is much better. It works the same. Then we have a while loop. While loop is not used in practice to loop over arrays or lists. While loops are used to process stuff as long as some conditions are true. For example, you want to ask the user to enter something. So as long as the user did not enter the correct input, you keep asking the user to enter the correct data. Or you want to process some information, and as long as the information is not processed completely, you keep repeating the process. So you have the while keyword, and here you have boolean expression that results to true. As long as this is true, you can repeat a block of code. For example, you say system.out, please enter the correct data. Mostly you store also a variable outside the loop. let's say boolean is okay. You say first false, and then here you say is okay, and then inside your loop you convert that is okay to true, which make this one true, and then here you convert it to false. When this is false, the loop stops. In while loop you have to do some stuff to stop the loop, otherwise you will overload your memory, and then it will keep running, and then it will turn into an infinite loop. Now this is going to just print one time. Comment this out, we don't need that. Now see, please enter the correct data. Let us use the scanner again to read some information from the user. Scanner, new scanner, we use system.in. We are not putting this inside the while loop because it will keep creating a new copy of scanner every time, and that's not necessary. And here we can store a string, let's call it info. First we set it to like empty string, and here we say info.length. When the length is less than 10, we keep asking the user to enter a text longer than 9 characters. So here, as long as the length of this string is less than 10 characters, we keep asking the user to enter the correct data. And here we have to set the info to scanner dot next line, and when it is done we print the data to the user. Sound info. Let us also add some information for ourselves. This is enough. You entered this. So now is okay is not necessary, and we also have to close the scanner dot close. So it says please enter the correct data. First we say ABC. It asks again, please enter the correct data. Next time we say this, please enter the correct data. We enter this one. Then I say you enter this, because the length of this one is much longer than this, so it is longer than 9 characters. So the result of this expression is false. When it is false, it stops the iteration. So this was a very basic example of while loop. As I told you, while loop is not used to loop over arrays or lists, but you can use it to loop over lists or arrays. For example, here we have cities. We can declare here integer j is 0. Now we can say j plus plus. So as long as j is less than less total, we print here the name of the city. The city name. So cities, again the index is j. Now you see it works the same way as this for loop, but this is not used to replace the for loop, you know. You also see that in the syntax of while loop that this accepts only Boolean expression. Then we have do while loop. Let me show you the syntax. You write do and then you open a code block, and then here you have while and the condition. Let us do this. So let us compare this syntax. So here you have while condition and then you open code block. Here you have do code block and then the condition. So it means that the do while loop executes the code block at least once, even if the condition is false. So in this case it will run okay. Let me change this. If j is greater than 5, now we know j is 0 and j is not greater than 5, but this code for the city with the index 0 will get executed. So this whole block of code will get executed. You see the city name gain. Here we also increase that, but it is 1, so 1 is not greater than 5. That's why it stops. Do while loop is rarely used. In the production environment, I myself use do while just once. And there is also another type of loop, that is for each loop. That is very interesting. We will talk about that next. So if you say for each, you get this syntax. So here and compared to this for loop, you have here counter variable, Boolean expression, and increment or decrement part. Here you have 3 parts. But in this situation, here you have only 2 parts. You have your list that you want to iterate over, and then you have the item in each iteration. Now it detected a list of strings here. So it is cities. It is better to name it city. So we want to console log each city. I want to bring this here, Control C, Control V. Now we don't need that. The city name is just city, and this will work the same as the others. The city name again Delhi, Kabul, New York, somewhere. So this is kind of for each in Java. So here we saw 4 types of loops. These are loops in Java. You saw the syntax and a very simple example. If you understood this, then you can implement this also in a very large application with complicated and complex codes and examples. There are also 2 very important keywords in programming, that is break and continue. Break is used to stop or break a loop. Continue is used to jump just one iteration. Ignore one iteration or the current iteration and then jump to the next one. Let me give you an example. Here we have a for each loop. We say if city dot equals, here we say the name of a city, in y we want to continue. You can use alt and arrow up or down to move your code up and down. Arrow up to move it inside of this. So if it is New York, continue, do not do this stuff. It is doing differently. If it is New York, break. And what we expect. So it will go print Kent. Jump Delhi will not print Delhi. Print Kabul. In New York, it will stop and crash. So it will not do the rest of the collection, the rest of the list. Let us see. So we only see Ghent and Kabul. Ghent and Kabul. Delhi was continued. New York and the rest were stopped or crashed. So this is the basic concept of break and continue in loops.